I heard that this wasn't really an extend tier. I actually asked this question a couple weeks ago, and I said, like, for example, Aberrus was a huge extend tier. Amir Drasil was a huge extend tier. Like, once you just got past a certain point, you just extended. And we thought it was because of the crest system, but then I asked about that this patch, and like a vast majority of cutting edge people said they were still reclearing. That may have stopped now, but like it was not a hard reclear once you've done these bosses for the first time. And they've been nerfed so much that people have actually been reclearing. But maybe, I mean, obviously, that could have been true 3 weeks ago, but maybe now people are starting to extend because, like, obviously, as every passing week goes by, there's less and less of a gain to reclear because you just simply have more of the items. You're DEing more of the items that drop every week, right? Also, you're getting more and more of a stacking buff, which makes your reclear gear not as relevant as progression time. People extend past Court now. Isn't that because Court, I think, takes longer to kill than Ansarek now? Am I making that up? I heard someone say that the other day, but maybe they were making that up. I heard that Court is actually harder now because they nerfed Ansarek so much. So that always makes sense. If you ever run into a situation where an end boss, it still says it takes longer on WoW on prog stats, but also this is including a lot of information, including kill dates dating all the way back to, like, it looks like the beginning of October. But you can tell that whatever nerf they did here in like the middle of October, like fucking turbo skyrocketed kill rates. So if you cut off these 2 weeks, I bet the progression time goes down a lot. Explain what extend means. Oh, someone asked this in Twitch chat too. What extending is in your Mythic Lockout, you kind of have to like do all the bosses or none. You can't like hop around to different bosses like a heroic one. So typically what guilds do later in a patch cycle is like what would happen if you didn't extend is like Tuesday or Wednesday if your EU would come around, and then you would like start your raid by killing all the bosses you've killed before and then going to the boss you're progressing. What extending means is that Tuesday or Wednesday comes around, your raid leader hits extend lockout, and then you guys all zone in, and you don't have to reclear any of the stuff you've done previously. You just start at the boss you're already progressing. The benefit of this is if you don't raid a lot during the week, you can spend more time actually progressing the boss you need to kill. The downside is you lose loot from reclearing. But like at a certain point in the patch, you don't actually get that much gear from reclearing. It takes a significant amount of your total raid time during the week, especially if you're raiding lower hours. And now there's a stacking buff in the raid. So, like, there's a certain point to where gear helps you kill a boss. That stacking buff makes the point where you no longer need gear to kill it happen earlier, as well as you just have the gear at this point to kill these bosses. So sometimes it's just a decision. I mean, in my opinion, it makes sense. Like, some people may not like it, because for a lot of people, maybe your guild's ranking or how fast you kill bosses doesn't really matter as much to you. You enjoy logging in and spending time with your guild when you raid. For you, you just want that sweet loot. Everyone plays this game for different reasons, and it totally makes sense that they would want different things and like different things. So a lot of people don't like reclearing if it's for that reason. But if you only raid, like let's say you raid 6 hours a week, let's say you raid 8 hours a week. If reclearing takes you 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, if you're at a point when you have one boss left, it's kind of an easy decision to extend, because like you have to ask yourself, like, is it worth spending 30 to 40% of our total progression time this week reclearing bosses we've already killed to get not even noticeably stronger, and more specifically, get gear that doesn't actually help us achieve our goal at this point? Is it worth sacrificing 40% of your progression time for that? The logical answer is no. But as a guild master, sometimes the decision you have to make is more complicated than that, right? Like, you have to make people happy. I actually don't have to deal with this in my guild because everyone in my guild is here for one reason, and it's to win. I don't have 5 players who care about being in all the time, or 6 players who just care about getting loot to do Mythic Plus, and then there's some people who just who type a paragraph after every item that drops and say it's BIS every single time because they just fucking love loot. I don't deal with that, but your guild might. And those people are going to be really upset if you keep extending. So even though extending is objectively the right choice to clear faster, it may not be the right choice for your guild, because while your goal as a raid or guild leader is to kill bosses, it's also to keep everyone in your guild happy. And that is significantly more challenging and sometimes involves you making different decisions. So Max, there's no way you don't have players who care about being in. I remember during Sofo, one of Echo's rogues tweeting about how crushed he was that he didn't get 4-piece. Yeah, we actually had a rogue in our guild who didn't get 4-piece as well, James, in that first week. So when I say they don't care about being in, like, I think if you're a competitor at this level and you've gotten to the point of being invited to a guild like this, you love playing the game and you would always prefer to be in rather than to be out, but you have 30 players, which means 50% of your players can't be in at any time. It's just part of what this is. I'm not saying that they don't want to be in. That's like saying a professional basketball or football player or something like doesn't care if they play or not. Any competitive player wants to be in. That's just, of course you do, right? No one wants to sit. But when I mean no one in our guild cares about being in, I, as the person who runs this guild, have never had a conversation in the last like 3 or 4 years that has involved someone complaining about not getting enough raid time and me having to like console them or deal with that. That doesn't happen to me, where I bet that happens all the fucking time in any other guild, because there are people who are doing that. I would say like people that exist for people, but it's also logically not a problem because of the amount of people that we have and the amount of people that can be in, that someone has to sit. The only time people would be upset is if they felt like someone was in ahead of them that wasn't a better decision. Either their class wasn't better or they weren't a better player than them. But I think we make those decisions really well and they trust us to make those decisions well, and that just isn't a common problem here. So I would say people care about being in, but they care about winning Race to World first way, way fucking more. And it's probably true that your guild doesn't look at a rank like we look at world first. Your personal reasons for playing the game maybe trump that and become a bigger talking point or something you have to deal with, where that is not true here.